Hello, we are Change the World Technologies, or CTW Technologies for short. My colleague and I are today going to present to you our proposition for the G20 GBC 2014 in collaboration with ASX and Frontier Economics. So we decided to focus on Australia in regards to the theme of water. We employed a top-down approach. We initially researched the Australian agricultural sector due to their extremely high water usage. We came to realize that given the highly sophisticated nature of the industry, any efficiency gains will be minimal and with a large trade-off in costs. We looked at other industries as well, but realized that most of the low-hanging fruits have been taken. So we believe that we should focus on the efficient allocation of available water, and markets are the best mechanism for scarce allocation of resources. The key risk in the water industry is water availability risk. That is, risk that arises from the possibility of droughts with no water available for use. Currently, there are no tools for market participants to manage this risk. Historically, the adverse outcomes from this were softened through building large infrastructure projects such as dams and other water storage facilities. The Australian government currently is not as willing to invest in large-scale investment due to two reasons. They have unfavorable environmental impacts, and they were not effective against droughts in the past. Furthermore, water markets are highly fragmented in Australia, as you can see in this picture. The map shows areas where water trading can occur within these blue areas. Transportation through pipelines is an extremely costly activity, and water is a low-value commodity. Hence, distribution only occurs through these hydrologically connected areas colored in blue. Also, price signals for water are not as widely available as financial markets and in other commodities. They are just prices within each trading zones, and they do not have expectations taken into account. So, taking all this into account, it quickly becomes evident that the challenge for Australia was about making the best use of its available water, and we strongly believe that the most impact we can have is through improving this inefficiency.
So, to address this problem, our concept is the introduction of a secondary market for the water industry, namely in the form of futures. These contracts have existed for other commodities as early as the 1800s to provide a tool for risk management and to provide price signals. Essentially, futures derive their value from an underlying asset, as is the case for any other commodity. But water has an added complexity. Water is managed by the use of water rights, which entitles the holder to a volume of water that is dependent on an allocation that is given by government at regular intervals. Now, the allocation of at any particular time has a possibility of being zero, which means that the holder is entitled to no water. Thus, while working with the ASX, CTW looked at constructing the futures contract based on an index on water storage levels. More on the construction of this product and the reasoning behind it later on in our presentation. So now let's talk about the potential benefits. What are the advantages of a futures market? Simply put, a secondary market would lead to an increase in the availability of information to the water industry and an overall reduction in risk. How? Well, with the introduction of an effective secondary market, the number of market players will increase. Now, Australia is not only the second driest country in the world, but it also has a high variability of rainfall. Hence, it's highly likely that a large number of entities will wish to mitigate the risks they face with regards to water availability, and hence enter this market. Consequently, this would increase market liquidity, thereby leading to better access to information and better price signals. The benefits of the system extend beyond those directly trading. That is, there's a trickle-down effect to individuals other than those directly participating in the futures market. Using the example of interest rate hedge, everyday individuals benefit from banks engaging in interest rate hedge trades, as they are able to partially offset some of their interest rates and pass it on in the form of lower rates charged to us borrowers. Similarly, in the case of water markets, a financial institution that lends to an irrigator, for example, exposes itself to water availability risk, as the irrigator may default on their loan payments in the event of a drought. This risk is reflected in higher interest rates charged by the bank. So a bank that is instead able to trade in water futures markets will be able to pass on lower interest rates to anyone who has exposure to water availability risk. Therefore, this decreases cost to anyone who is drought sensitive. Additionally, these lower rates can be expected to increase investment in agricultural technology. Banks and other financial participants, often with the greatest value at risk to water availability, do not possess the desire nor the ability to acquiring physical water to offset the risk. Now, the agricultural industry currently manages its risks by financial vehicles such as insurance or hedging against other financial instruments. Although this provides protection against unforeseen circumstances, it forms an expensive component, and futures markets provide a far cheaper alternative as well as an option for an additional revenue stream.
So let's actually go into the product. This is what a typical futures contract would entail. The unit of the contract month, minimum price movement, indicators of the type of the contract. The important thing here is to look at the futures contracts are usually that involves a delivery of the underlying asset. However, in our case, since futures are based on an index, cash is exchanged rather than the physical water. So let's talk about the index. Given a need for an index as the underlying asset, a weighted average of data on current storage levels provided by the Bureau of Meteorology will be used. This index will be used to capture the water availability risk that my colleague has talked about extensively. We foresee that there will be more information and transparency as primary market participants can look towards the secondary market index to determine where the market's expectation of future water prices are. They will be able to mitigate their water availability risk through hedging. This is, as we have repeated throughout, and is our overarching theme that will make water markets more efficient, as traders can make more rational decisions and water will be put to its highest value use. Now let's consider an example to make this concept concrete and how it would actually work. Suppose a farmer has two sources of income. One is through crops and one is through futures. So the farmer takes a short position of 10 futures contracts. So the farmer will profit if the index is below today's level of 50. Now there are two events that can happen, an event of low rainfall or high rainfall. So the low rainfall, there's a drought, it leads to a failed crop, a loss of $40,000. However, this loss is made up through the futures contract. Thus, the farmer's total income is zero, he is perfectly hedged. Let's look at outcome 2. There is high rainfall. The farmer doesn't actually make a loss in his crops, but makes a loss in his futures contracts. Here the farmer makes $20,000, although he could have made $40,000, but the farmer has more certainty of risk being mitigated based on any of these outcomes occurring. Hence, his management of risk is better. For the futures market to be successful, the components of marketing, costing, revenue streams, and the raising of capital are important factors like any other business. The financial sector and the agricultural firms, brokers, and end users such as farmers form the basis of our customer segments. For the end users such as farmers, introduction to the markets and incentives to participate will be provided in the form of virtual trading sessions. This will help promote the water futures market, boosting its awareness of its existence and giving unsophisticated investors the chance to participate in the market if they so desire. However, the majority of Change the World's marketing efforts will be focused on the larger players such as the financial sector and large agricultural firms. Ctw will facilitate creation and delivery of brochures, arranging roadshows and delivering presentations to this market segment to build customer relationships. The futures market will also see the increase in the need for a number of specialized skill sets such as water futures traders and compliance officers. So you can see there's an economy-wide and social effect in terms of increased number of jobs. There will also, in terms of the cost structure, not a major investment in terms of infrastructure. Ctw would just leverage off ASX's current infrastructure for trading of financial instruments. ASX will just have to add one more instrument, which is not very expensive. Major costs will come from hiring of new staff and the facilities needed. An important resource that will be required is a risk manager. He or she will be required to make sure that the system is running effectively and to ensure there isn't major systemic risk that could bring the system down. Financing for the project will be done through unsecured loans of around $800,000 to $1 million per year based on consultation with ASX. The main advantage of this is that the speed at which these loans can be obtained. Prior annual reports of the ASX reveal a capacity for them to obtain $250 million, indicating that our loan amounts are feasible. There are two recurring revenue streams, commission-based and subscription fee-based. Commissions based would be a 5% on total volume traded or a flat fee of $5. So The decision to go with which one will depend on our profit maximization. Also, there's a supplementary revenue stream that we think we can provide through data subscription. There will be a standard free service and a premium service, which will show the depth of market.
Now, how will this actually work? CTW has formed strategic partnerships to focus on different areas of the futures market setup. We work in partnership with the Australian Stock Exchange and Frontier Economics as our key partners. CTW will be responsible for marketing and business development, including virtual trading, and liaising with various stakeholders. Frontier Economics' area of expertise lies in market design, hence our team will be seeking their mentorship to guide us in the structure of these markets. The ASX has a pre-established technology platform and all ownership of rights, and the highest detail on market knowledge and how to achieve deep market penetration, hence all formal activities will be conducted through them. To conclude, the concept of the water futures market reduces investment costs, allows hedging to lower risks, and provides financial institutions with an additional asset class to invest in. The contracts will be based on the indices provided by the Bureau of Meteorology. We believe that the futures concept in water trading can revolutionize the industry by bringing about efficient water allocation, increasing investment in water-related technologies, and in the creation of supplementary products, creating a sustainable ecosystem. On behalf of Change the World Technologies, I would like to thank you very much for your time.